I am having a conversation today with Kalpesh Patel. He is a local attorney here in the Tampa Bay area, and we wanted to talk about a PPP loan to help you out if you are a small business. So let's just start off with that. What is a PPP loan?
Yeah, so the PPP loan, it stands for Paycheck Protection Program, and it's a loan that is a loan program that was authorized by the CARES Act, and it allocates $350 billion to the Small Business Administration to provide small businesses to continue their payroll obligations. So the government doesn't want people filing for unemployment. So this is a way for them to keep the businesses going. So when this whole situation settles down, the businesses will be ready to go and they don't have to, find new workers or, additional people for their company.
So how does someone know if they're eligible for this kind of loan?
So there's a few different eligible criterias. And so one of them is that if you're a small business and you have 500 or less employees, you're most likely going to qualify. And there's a second part to this too. So you have to have been in business before February 15 of 2020 and also have actual payroll expenses. And that can be payroll to employees. If you're a restaurant, it can include servers and the tips that they're received. And also if you made payments to independent contractors.
And can you use that money for anything? What can you use it for?
Yeah, so you can use that money for a few different things. Number one thing that you should be using that money for is going to be to continue your payroll obligations, right? And then the second thing you'll be able to use it for is if you are, have to pay rent and have a lease agreement that was entered into before February 15 of 2020, you can use it for rent obligations. And you can also use it for interest payments on any debts and mortgage payments that you might have as well.
We've heard a lot about these SBA loans. How is this one different from an SBA loan?
So this one is very different because it doesn't require personal guarantee. So, it's a non-recourse loan also. So if you get this loan and your business doesn't succeed, you're not personally obligated to repay it versus all the other SBA loans usually require some form of a personal guarantee and collateral. And so again, this is also different because there's no collateral required either. And you may also receive up to 8 weeks of your cost of the loan that you use forgiven.
This has certainly been impacting small businesses here in our area for some time now. So what if a business has already laid off its employees?
So if a business has laid off its employees, the goal of the program is to help you bring those employees back onto your payroll so they don't have to go and file for unemployment and keep your business active and healthy. So, you should consider bringing them back on. And especially if you want to get forgiveness, they're going to look at your costs that you've incurred during the same time period last year versus the cost and expenses you incur this year to determine the forgiveness.
Where can somebody apply for this loan, and is there a deadline to apply?
Yeah, so the government's put a hard deadline of June 30, 2020 right now, and they may extend that if there's money left over, but we're not sure yet. So if you need it, you should definitely apply as soon as possible. And you're going to want to check with existing SBA lenders that provide SBA loans. Most banks are SBA lenders, and so you're going to want to check with the bank you already bank with and have checking accounts for your business and everything like that, and see when they're going to start rolling out the applications for the program.
Is this a loan that can be forgiven?
Yeah, so this is one of the other unique parts about this is that the government's willing to forgive up to 8 weeks of expenses you incur, and these expenses are going to be payroll expenses. So if you pay your employees for the next 8 weeks, if you make your rent payments for the next 8 weeks, all of that will be taken into consideration and potentially forgiven. And again, they're going to compare the cost from last year that you incurred to this year to just make sure that you're not giving out extra bonuses or anything like that.
And how much then can a small business borrow?
So, typically a small business, if you were in business last year, you're going to be able to borrow 2.5 times your payroll obligations you incurred last year. And so that's going to include wages you pay to employees and independent contractors. And if you were not in business in 2019, then they're going to look at how much were your payroll costs from January 1 of this year to February 15 of 2020. And if you're a seasonal employer, and a lot of businesses in Florida are, they're going to look at, the time period between February 15 of 2019 and June of 2019 to determine how much you'll be able to borrow. The maximum amount, though, is $10 million.
Many of the small businesses may not be incorporated. Can you get one of these loans if you're self-employed or an independent contractor?
Yes, definitely. So if you're a self-employed individual or independent contractor, in order to calculate the amount of loan you'll get, the government's going to take a look at what's your net self-employment income. So, the total amount of money you bring in, what were your expenses, and how much did you have left over? And they'll use that to figure it out. But they limit the wages to a maximum of $100,000 for that calculation purposes. So if you made more than $100,000, they're going to prorate it back down to that $100,000.
If somebody's watching this and they're wanting to apply, do you have any recommendations to make that a little bit easier?
Yeah, it's what they should do is start gathering all your documents from 2019, your list of employees that you had, how much they received, your employer W-2s, payroll summaries, group health plans that you paid into, and any retirement health plans that you paid into, because that's all going to be used to calculate the amount you're going to be able to borrow, and also the amount you may be eligible to receive forgiveness for.
So if somebody decides to take out one of these PPP loans, does that make them then eligible to still apply for other SBA loans and programs that are out there too?
So no, they'll be able to continue to apply for all the different programs. Now, the PPP loan, it's got a very specific program, and it's to keep our friends and family employed during this time. And the only limitation is that if you receive a loan for one purpose, you cannot use it for the same purpose you received the other loan for. So if you're using the PPP loan for payroll, you can't use another loan you received for that purpose. The government doesn't want to double up on the loans and for different purposes and things like that.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, this is a tough time right now for a lot of small businesses, and this is a great program that's been passed, and hopefully it'll help us out for the short term. And if everyone stays safe and stays well, we'll be out of this in no time and back to doing business. And so I have a lot of small business clients, and during this time, what I would recommend is focus on the things that you weren't able to focus on before this happened. Work on improving your processes, establish policies that you were thinking about doing, maybe think of new initiatives and marketing ideas. So just, use this time